Hi, good day. This is Miss LM and we're back again with another math video, and today we're going to talk about the part 2 of triangle congruence postulate. So, as I've said from our previous videos, we have 3 subtopics about this lesson. So, we have the 3 triangle congruence postulate, and then now we're going to talk about proving triangles using the postulates. So, in this video, we're going to learn how to use the different definitions of terms, properties, and postulates on how to prove triangles. Okay, so we have these two lesson objectives here. Number 1, determine the congruence postulate used, and then number 2, prove that the two triangles are congruent using the different definition, properties, and congruence postulate. So for our lesson objective number 1, this is just a recap of what we have learned from our previous video. So we're going to determine the congruence postulate that the following statement show. The first statement says that if triangle ABC is congruent to triangle JHI, then angle A is congruent to angle G, side AB is congruent to side GH, and angle B is congruent to angle H. Just by looking at the statement here, we have angle A and angle B from the first triangle with the side AB. So side AB is the included side of these two angles. Same as kay angle G and angle H, included side niya din si side GH. So we can say that these congruent triangles are congruent because of ASA Congruence Postulate. So kung medyo nahihirapan tayo using the statements, we can draw two triangles naman. Ayan. With triangle A, BC, and then another triangle. So we have G, HI. Ayan. Then sabi dito, si angle A daw ay congruent kay angle G. Si side AB ay congruent kay side GH. Then si angle B ay congruent kay angle H. So kung mapapansin nyo po yung ating markings na nailagay dun sa ating dalawang triangles, it shows that we have here angle, side, angle, wherein the side is an included side for these two angles. Okay? So for this first statement, these two triangles are congruent by ASA Congruence Postulate. Another one. If triangle GOL is congruent to triangle ROW, then side GO is congruent to side RO, OL is congruent to OW, OW, and then side GL is congruent to side RW. So all of the given here are the sides, so we can say that these two triangles are congruent by SSS Congruence Postulate. Siguro naman, hindi na natin kailangan yan gawa ng two triangles. But if you want to see, again, draw two triangles, GOL, hindi man siya magkamukhang magkamukha. Ayan. Ang mahalaga, lagyan natin siya ng markings. Si GO daw ay congruent kay RO. Si OL, side OL, is congruent to side OW, and then side GL is congruent to RW. So, yan yung itsura niya kapag idinraw natin siya. Then, the last one, we have this statement here. If triangle BON is congruent to triangle ENO, then side ON is congruent to side NO. ON, NO. Side BO is congruent to side EN. And then angle BON, so it is talking about angle O, is congruent to angle ENO. Now, what is the congruence postulate for this statement? So we have two sides and then we have an included angle. So that is side, angle, side congruence postulate. So kung drawing pa natin siya, ano nga ba ang magiging itsura nito? So as you can see dito sa ating statement, meron tayong common na side, ON at saka NO. So dun sa mga nauna nating figures on the last video, so ganito siya, ayan. Meron tayong two triangles with a common side. So, nandyan si ON or side ON. Then we have B here and then we have E here. Side ON is congruent to side NO, and then we have side BO and side EN. Then, for the angles, we have angle BON and then angle ENO. Ito naman siya. So, as you can see, side, and then we have included angle, then another side. So for number 3, this is the SAS Congruence Postulate. Okay? So that's what we have discussed on our lesson from our previous video. So kung hindi nyo pa ito napapanood, I will put the link down below or dito sa may upper right corner para panoorin nyo muna siya before you go back to this video kasi proving na yung nandito sa video na ito. Okay? So now let's proceed to our second objective, which is all about proving. So we have to prove that the two triangles are congruent using the congruence postulates, the definitions, the properties that we have already known. Okay? So example number 1. Okay, so upon looking at our first problem here, we have these two triangles, and then the given are side AD is congruent to side BC. So ito yon yung may markings, and then yung AC po is a line segment, and BD is also a line segment that bisect each other. So, nag-intersect sila, nahati nila ang isa't isa. And it is bisected at point O. Okay. Ang kailangan nating i-prove ay ang triangle AOD is congruent to triangle BOC. Okay. So, we can use the two-column form of proving. Kung natatandaan nyo po ito sa ating mga previous na videos. So, we have this two-column. We have the statements and then the reasons. And ang pinakaumpisa po natin kadalasan when it comes to statements ay yung ating given. So, meron na tayo agad mailalagay. And then, based from these statements, ano yung reason bakit natin siya ginamit sa pagpo-prove? Since side AD and side BC are congruent based from our given, so yun yung magiging reason natin. Given po kasi siya. For our second statement, we have the second given, which is yung ating AC and BD bisect each other at point O. Again, ang reason po is given siya. Now, based from the second statement na nilagay natin, dyan po tayo titingin ngayon para may mailagay tayo dito sa ating third statement. Sabi dito, ang line segment AC at line segment BD daw ay nagbisect sa isa't isa. So, nahati nila ang isa't isa. So, that means, itong mga line segment na to, which are side AO, side OC, so since nahati sila, they are congruent. Also, side DO at si side OB, congruent din siya kasi na-bisect siya. So, yun po yung pwede natin ilagay dito sa ating number 3. Side AO is congruent to side CO, and then side BO is congruent to side DO. Bakit po ito yung ating ilalagay? Anong reason natin? Based from our second statement, nag-base tayo dito, bisect, we have definition of segment bisector. Pag meron tayong segment bisector, ibig sabihin nahahati yung segment natin. So, yun po yung ating reason dito. Then, for the last one, since meron na po tayo, again, ano-ano na ngayon yung congruent natin? We have this side, AD at saka BC, AO, ayan, AO at saka CO, also yung BO, and then yung ating DO, anong napansin nyo po ngayon? Ano-ano na yung congruent parts natin for these triangles? So, meron tayong tatlong side. So, yung ipinapaprove sa atin na triangle AOD is congruent to triangle BOC is true, and yung reason natin is that meron tayong SSS Congruence Postulate. Okay? So, that's how we use the two-column form in proving two triangles. Again, babalikan natin yung mga napag-aralan natin na definitions of terms, also the properties para po mas ma-prove natin yung kailangan nating i-prove dito sa ating problem. Okay? Now, let's proceed to our second example. Given here is side CR is congruent to side CB. Side CA bisects angle RCB. Now, what we're going to prove is that triangle CRA is congruent to triangle CBA. Okay? So, kung titingnan natin yung figure at yung given, so ano-ano nga ba ang ibig sabihin niyan? Meron daw tayong line segment or side na nagbisect sa RCB. Pag sinabi pong bisect, nahahati niya to sa gitna. So, pag sinabi hinati, ibig sabihin equal yan, di po ba? So, ano pa ang ating pwedeng magamit dyan to prove? So, again, we have to use the two-column form to prove this problem. And then, ang ating pong unang pwedeng ilagay is the first given. Side CR is congruent to side CB. Ang reason natin is given. The number 2, side CA bisects angle RCB. So, again, pag nilagay natin yan, ang reason po ay given. Now, based from our second statement, CA bisects RCB. So, masasabi natin ngayon na these two angles are congruent. So, we can say here that angle RCA is congruent to angle BCA. And our reason, based from our second statement, na nag-bisect daw po ito, so we have definition of angle bisector. Ayan, nahati yung ating angle. Then, now, ano pa yung ating kailangan tingnan dyan sa ating given at sa ating figure para masabi natin na meron tayong postulate na pwedeng magamit. Diba po, pipili lang tayo sa tatlong postulate. We have the SAS, side angle side, we have the ASA, angle side angle, and then the SSS. So, as you can see, meron na tayong side, meron na tayong angle. Kailangan lang po natin na maging included angle ito. So, aling side pa ang kulang para maging included angle ito? Diba po, meron tayong side CA. And this side CA, since common side siya ng dalawang triangle, ito po ang ating hinahanap na third part. Side CA is congruent to side CA. At anong reason yung ating pwedeng ilagay dito? Bakit nga ba congruent ang side CA sa sarili niya? Again, that is because of the reflexive property. Now, meron na tayong, ilan na yung parts natin? Tatlo na yan. Meron na tayong side, meron na tayong included angle, and then another side. So, these two triangles, triangle CRA, is congruent to triangle CBA by, anong reason? That is SAS Congruence Postulate. Okay? Next, number 3. So, we have here this given, angle 1 and angle 2 are congruent. Then, side CD is perpendicular to the line segment AB. Perpendicular. Yung symbol na yan, ang ibig sabihin ay perpendicular. Now, we have to prove that triangle ACD is congruent to triangle BCD. Okay, again, we can use the two-column form of proving. Then, dito lang po ulit muna tayo iikot sa given. So, statement 1 is yung ating angles. Angle 1 is congruent to angle 2. Ang reason natin dyan is given. Side CD is perpendicular to the line segment AB. And again, given po yan. Now, based from our second statement, perpendicular. Ano yung natatandaan nyo pag sinabing perpendicular? So, nakakapag-form tayo ng ano? Two right angles. So, from this statement number 2, we can say that angle CDA and angle CDB are right angles. Kasi perpendicular, di po ba? Ayan. CDA and CDB, they are right angles. Now, anong reason? Again, definition of perpendicular lines. Okay, next. Now that we have here two right angles, ano po ngayon ang masasabi natin sa dalawang right angles na yan? Ano po ba ang measurement ng right angles? May iba pa bang measurement ng right angles? Wala na po, di po ba? Both of them are 90 degrees. So we can say that angle CDA and angle CDB are congruent because all right angles are congruent. So yan yung reason natin. Pwede natin sabihin na definition of right angles or all right angles are congruent. Okay? So that's number 4. Another thing na kailangan nating hanapin is the another part na makakapagpakumpleto dun sa ating postulate na pwedeng gamitin. So, meron tayong dalawang angles. So, ang hinahanap na lang natin ay included side. And obviously, the included side here is this side. Side CD. But, ano pong property yung pwede natin gamitin para mapatunayan na itong side na ito ay congruent sa sarili niya. Anong property po ulit yon? So, side CD is congruent to side CD by reflexive property. Okay? Then, the last one, since kompleto na po yung mga kailangan natin, meron tayong angle 1, congruent to angle 2, meron na tayong dalawang right angles, and then, yung atin pong included side that is congruent to itself by reflexive property. Now, pwede na natin sabihin na ang triangle ACD ay congruent to triangle BCD by ASA Congruence Postulate. So, that's how we prove two triangles that are congruent. Okay? So, for the next example, meron tayo ditong two triangles pa rin. But, kung mapapansin nyo po, yung kailangan nating i-prove ay yung part naman ng triangle, which is angle UPS, ito siya, then angle HPS. So, ito naman siya. Yan daw yung kailangan nating i-prove na congruent. Ang given ngayon is that side UP is congruent to side PH and side SU is congruent to side SH. Paano natin ngayon mapapatunayan na itong angle UPS is congruent to angle HPS? So, wala tayong dapat ipag-alala. Kasi, the way we did our two-column form from our previous 3 examples, ganun din yung gagawin natin. Until we arrive that these two triangles are congruent, and then from that two congruent triangles, natatandaan nyo pa ang CPCTC, di po ba ang sabi doon, corresponding parts of congruent triangles are congruent. So kapag napatunayan natin na ang dalawang triangles na ito ay congruent sa isa't isa, ibig sabihin, yung corresponding parts niya ay congruent na din. So ang una nating goal is to prove that these two triangles are congruent, then saka natin ilalagay si CPCTC. Okay? So, ano muna yun sa number 1? Siyempre, yung ating given. Side PU is congruent to side PH. Ayan, ito siya. At ang reason natin ay given po siya. Then, side SU is congruent to side SH. Ito po ulit yon. Ayan. At anong reason? Given po ulit siya. Then, according din naman sa ating figure, since may figure po tayo dito, ano yung ating pwede pang gamitin na another part? Yung angle U and angle H, since included angle siya, pwede sana natin siyang gamitin. But, wala naman po tayong given na these two angles are congruent. Alin lamang dito yung automatically congruent na? And that is side PS. So, side PS is congruent to side PS by reflexive property. So, no need na to think of any other parts kasi this side here, since nag-share yung ating first triangle at second triangle sa kanya, automatically congruent na siya. So, tatlo ng side. We have side UP, HP, side SU, SH, and side PS congruent to side PS. So, we can say that these two triangles are congruent. Triangle UPS is congruent to triangle HPS by SSS Congruence Postulate. And now, dahil congruent na nga yung dalawang triangle natin, yung ating kailangang i-prove na two angles that are congruent, angle UPS and angle HPS are congruent. Anong ilalagay nating reason? Galing po dito sa ating fourth statement, two congruent triangles. So, these two corresponding parts of these triangles are congruent. So, lalagyan na lang po natin is the CPCTC. Again, CPCTC stands for corresponding parts of congruent triangles are congruent. Okay. So, wala tayong dapat ikatakot. The way na mag-prove tayo ng dalawang triangles, ganun pa rin. And then, kapag na-prove na natin yung dalawang triangles na yon na congruent, masasabi natin na yung corresponding parts niya ay congruent din. Okay? Now, let's proceed to our last example. Okay, so we have these two triangles, CRO and then NWO. Then the given here says that side CO is congruent to side NO. Point O is the midpoint of line segment RW, and angle COR is congruent to angle NOW. So again, ano-ano yung congruent parts natin na sinabi sa given? CO and NO. We also have midpoint daw siya. Okay, so pag sinabing midpoint, they are congruent, di po ba? Then yung ating angle COR, angle NOW, yan. So, congruent daw siya. Doon pa lang sa given natin, makikita na natin yung ating hinahanap. Di po ba? So, we have two sides. Ayan. And an included angle. But, again, we have to use the two-column form to prove this problem. Side CR is congruent to side NW. Okay. So, based from our given, so we have CO and NO. Congruent sila. Reason natin is given. Next, we have point O is the midpoint of RW. Again, given po yan. Before tayo mag-proceed sa third given, tingnan muna natin itong ating statement number 2. Point O is the midpoint of RW. So, since midpoint po yan, anong mangyayari sa ating RW? So, mahahati siya. RO is congruent to WO. Ano ngayon yung reason natin? Again, midpoint, definition of midpoint. Ayan. Based from our second statement, yun yung magiging reason natin. Now, kunin na natin yung third given natin. Angle COR is congruent to NOW. Ang reason? Given. At number 5, sabi ko nga kanina, ayan. So, ito yung ating markings. Kumpleto na yung hinahanap natin. That triangle COR is congruent to triangle NOW. And this is by SAS Congruence Postulate. Okay? Then, for the last na statement and reason, syempre yung pinapaprove sa atin, we have side CR is congruent to side NW. Again, since meron tayong two congruent triangles, Ang reason natin dito is that we have CP-CTC, that the corresponding parts of congruent triangles are congruent. Okay? So, that's all for this video. I hope you learned something. Again, we can use the two-column form when it comes to proving. Then, the definitions of terms, the postulates, the properties that we have discussed before are essential na kailangan nating matandaan para mas malinaw po kung paano tayo makakapag-prove ng two triangles. And then, kapag may pinapaprove naman po na another part of the triangle, all we need to do first is to prove that the two triangles are congruent. Then, saka natin gagamitin yung CP-CTC. Okay? So, that's all for this video. Huwag kalimutang mag-like, huwag kalimutang mag-share, at huwag din kalimutang mag-subscribe. Okay? So, keep safe everyone. God bless. Bye-bye!